Christian said, boosting with the sounds of heavy machinery, there was only tingar di theater broget as well to Avarian SVC. We call it Team GCB Babi, a miniature great yellow excavator, perfecting every detail. Today, he was the Crayolas unofficial mascot. We deposit him on dashboard, press him on still beams for photos, and even joke about him being the real supervisor. He was a symbol of our hard work, a total little trinket in a world of concrete and steel. Tinelbui, a young apprentice named Leo, was especially fond of it. He found it on a morning, sitting pristine on a pile of gear, as if it had been prepared just for him. He cleaned it up and kept it in the main office, a splash of cheerful color against the dusty blueprinter. Looking back, today why it just appeared. So it have been our first warning. But as Station Wallet said, casting long, dark shadows across the unfinished skeletons of buildings. A different feeling would threat you there. It started with the sounds at first, they were as to dismay. The grunts of settling metal, the wind whistling through empty window frames. But then, the sounds became more specific. A hand, rhythmic clinking, a soft, scraping noise. Like the metal tracks dragging across concrete, the naked watchman, an old timber named Gus, was the first to report dead. He Italian, his voice a little shaky, saying he heard what sounded like a toy moving around in the locked blue main office. We all get it off, Gus, you've been staring at concrete too long. We say, my PGCB baby is just dreaming of begin. We were fully. We were so wrong. Till next week began to set in. When Leo mentioned something strange, he was working late. Finishing up some paperwork in the office, PGCB baby was on the desk, right where he left it. He turned his back for just a moment to grab a file, and when he turned back, it had moved. Not be moved, just an inch or two. Its little sofa are now pointing towards the door. I tried to rationalize it. A vibration from a passing through it might be bumped the desk without realizing. But the next minute, it happened again. This time, it was at the other end of the desk, facing the window that overlooked the dark, empty seat. Knuckle Grant started to prickle at the back of his neck. He began laughing as moment on a piece of paper under the toy-edged nigger. Every single morning, the GCB baby had moved, sitting well away from the man. It was just vibrating. It was moving on its own. Then came the naked of the storm, rain lashed against the office trailer. And the wind howled like a hungry wolf. Gus was on duty. And around midnight, he made a frantic shout. You're not going to believe this, he stammered. His voice filled with panic. The toy, the little excavator. It's like a sorry arm, but told him he was thinking, reflections from the lightning, no. He insisted that he were not yellow, he red. Politorik data glowing in the dark. Until looking red at me. The line was crackling with static, but just before it should light, we heard him whisper, "It is. It is coming." That was the last time we ever heard from Gus. The next morning, his patrol chart was empty, the door singing in the wind, the office was unlocked, and Gus was gone. The only thing out of place was the GCB baby, sitting in the middle of the floor. Its tracks packed in face, white mud. The panic started to spread throughout the chaotic virus. Gus was gone, juicy. Vanished. The police came, asked questions, and found nothing. No signs of a struggle, no ladder. It was as if he simply evaporated into the naked air. Work became tense. The once cheerful city was now filled with suspicious glances and worship. Fearful whispered, PGCB baby was no longer a cute mascot. It was an object of terror. They locked it away in a heavy-duty toolbox, thinking that would be the end of it. But 2 days later, another worker disappeared. A welder named Mika. He was supposed to finish a late night shift on the third floor of the main structure. He never clocked away. His welding torch was found still, but Mika was gone. That same night, the toolbox was found open. Its lock twisted and broken from the incident. The GCB baby was perched on a heavy girder. Its thin sofa arm dripping with something dirt and viscous. We had to know what was going on. Leo and Satu, driven by a mixture of terror and a desperate need for answers, decided to investigate the history of this set. We spent hours digging through old town archives, went under horrific conditions. The factory owner was a tyrannical man who worked the children to the bone. The archivist told a grim story of a terrible accident. A young boy, exhausted and overworked, had fallen into a piece of industrial machinery. His body was never fully recovered. His name was never even recorded. He was just another lost soul swallowed by the factory. The factory was eventually turned down, but the legend says the boy's vengeful spirit remained, tethered to the ground where he suffered. Forever angry at the world of construction and machinery that stole his life, armed with his living knowledge, Leo and Ignawe had to face the source of the horror. Kat Nigen, who returned to the city, armed with flashlights and iron crowbars. The air was unnaturally cold and still. We found TGC the baby in the center of the main foundation, sitting motionless. As we approached it, a low groan, a horrible mix of grinding gears and a chilled shock, echoed from the toy, and then, its headly gas flickered on, burning with that same intense. Demonic red. It was TG's a toy and more. It began to change. Its metal body twisted and warped, growing in season. The sofa elongated into a true, sharp claw. The tracks churned, digging into the concrete as it slid into a monstrous, full-sided excavator, filled the century of rage. The ghost of the forgotten boy had found its new machine. We were frozen in terror as the monstrous machine turned its glowing red eyes towards us. It led to a deafening roar of screeching metal and vengeful fury. We scrambled through the skeletal structure of the building, the monster in hot pursuit. It smashed through walls and tore down steel beams as if they were twigs. We finally found ourselves cornered on the top floor. Below us, the monster clawed its way up the side of the building. This was it. There was no escape. But then, Leo, remembering the story of the lost boy, had a desperate idea. I shouted over the wall, "We're sorry. Wait, no, what happened to you? We're not your enemy." The creature paused, its red eyes fixed on him. Leo took another step forward. "Why I'll tell you your story? He yelled, "No one will forget you again. Just let us go." For a moment, a flicker of something odin dragged Shemato across its glowing air. The grinding sounds of the night and then, with Afina, mournful shriek that sounded almost like actual SK, the monstrous excavator began to tremble. It dissolved not into metal and rust, but into a swirling cloud of dirt and spectral leather, before vanishing completely, leaving only a profound, chilling silence. We survived the night. The city was shut down, officially due to structural instability. The missing worker were never found. Leo and Alex had city and never looked back yet. We never spoke of what we saw, but the story doesn't end. Months later, in a new city, on a new construction site, a young worker finds something in the dirt. A small, bright yellow excavator, looking brand new. Bismillah, it's itu. Ryan wipes the dust off, keplaces it on his dashboard. Arjutin maskan for the trail as the sun begins to set. He does notice that what he had legged on the toy flicker for just a second, glowing with a fine, but unmistakable shadow of red. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more terrifying tales. Stay safe out there.